Folks, excuse me. Undoubtedly, you've heard about Donald Trump's announced decision about what he wants to do about the DACA program. And honestly, I really don't have a dog in this particular hunt. But on the other hand, I cannot stand it when these Republicans get up there and lie through their teeth. Now, the gentleman you see on the right is Chris Kobach. And he is the Attorney General for the state of Kansas. He's also, in my opinion, a racist. I say that because this particular individual has helped to author a lot of the voter suppression laws that have promulgated throughout various states, including Texas, North Carolina, Florida, Wisconsin, his own state of Kansas, Arizona, etc. And every time the laws that he has helped to write for the various states have been challenged in court, they have lost. He has a record of over on all of the laws that he has tried to get on the books of the various states in order to reduce the number of voters that are of color. And I got to tell you, every time I see this guy, I just want to punch him in the face. That's, you know, how much of a visceral reaction I have to this guy. And then when he opens his mouth, it gets even worse. Now, he had an interview, which you will see now, with a commentator from MSNBC, Hallie, I forget what her last name is, but anyway, and he specifically just lies about various things, has no facts to back up his positions, and just sprouts this crapola. And every time Miss Hallie goes back at him, he basically tries to change the subject. Anyway, I'm going to play the interview, and I'm going to stop it and point out the lies and misstatements that he consistently makes.
Constitutional because an amnesty, which changes the legal status of a large number of people en masse, is a legislative act, and the courts have long held that when you do something like that, that's legislative. And in order to do that, you have to have an act of Congress. So it's not illegal to have a DREAM Act, to give these people an amnesty, but the president can't do it unilaterally.
But I guess my question is, why can't you do the travel ban unilaterally? Because that's what this administration has been arguing for the last 8 months.
Correct. And the travel ban is authorized by a congressional statute. So Congress has the overall power of immigration, but then they give statutory authority to the president to do certain things through executive action. So there's already a statute that says the president can withhold admission to any category of people, and he used that statutory authority to do the travel ban. So he has statutory authority there. The DACA actually violates 3 different federal statutes that say you can't do this.
But let me ask you this then. If you're relying on Congress and you say this needs to be a legislative fix, why do you oppose that legislative fix? You've come out and said you're against Congress doing something about it, but
sure.
What's your problem with it?
Okay, let me stop him right there. Now, he is right as far as the ability to deal with immigration laws being in the purview of Congress. And what President Obama did, and he even acknowledged it, he asked Congress to act. Congress, and let's be specific about this, the House of Representatives refused to act because the Senate actually did draw up immigration legislation, okay, that they passed, and it was a tough vote, but they passed it. And when they moved it down to the House for them to take it up, the House of Representatives, Biner, refused to bring it to the floor for a vote, okay? The votes were there. And both Republicans and Democrats acknowledged that the votes were there to pass immigration legislation, but because there were insufficient Republican votes, i.e. a Republican majority voting for the legislation, Boehner made the decision that he would not even bring the legislation to the floor to get a vote. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. But let's get back to the initial premise. President Obama, because Congress refused to take action, took action unilaterally on his own, which, and in all honesty, was not legal. It was not legal, but he took action. Now, Congress's response, or their remedy to the situation, was not just to sue him over the action he took, but for them to take action in regard to the matter of immigration. But chicken shits that they were, they decided that all they wanted to do was push back against Obama, which in effect, if they had actually sued him on DACA, and they did take him to court on it, and parts of DACA were deemed illegal, but parts of it were deemed legal, if they had done what they were supposed to do, okay, instead of just pushing back against Obama and in effect trying to create a neutral situation which had no benefit for the country or for the DACA recipients, you know, it would have been, like I said, a completely different story. But all Congress wanted to do was oppose Obama at any way or means that they could. So if he had said the sky was blue, they would have argued that no, the sky was basically red. If he had said up is up, they would have said no, up is down. That's how much in opposition the Republican Congress was towards President Obama. So again, folks, the action that Trump took was not a legislative action, and the chicken shit that he is, he had Jeff Sessions, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, an avowed racist in his own right, go out and try to spin all the reasons why the president was suspending over time, phasing out, we'll call it, the principles of DACA. It was President Trump who should have brought his blubberous ass out there, because he was not taking a legislative action. He was taking an executive action. The executive action he was taking was to negate the previous executive action of President Obama. So no, this was not about the legality of the DACA program. This was about the ability to negate a legislative action of his predecessor. But, you know, I'm going on, and you probably don't want to hear about that. Let's continue with the lies from Mr. Kobach.
As a matter of policy, so setting aside the law, and I agree Congress has the power to do this, I would vote against it, because right now you have a huge problem in the labor market for young Americans. The average age of, the median age of a DACA student, or not student, DACA person is about 25 or so, and you've got massive unemployment among American high school graduates who are seeking jobs, 17% unemployment, 31% underemployment. Even college graduates are 12% underemployed in America. These are U.S. citizens. So why in the world would we legalize an additional 1.7 million people to compete against our own U.S. citizens who can't get a job or who are working part-time with a college degree?
But if your argument is based on the economic part of it, so I get that your argument is based on the economic part of it, but there are estimates that the U.S. GDP could go down some $400 billion. These huge numbers. You know it's going to affect Kansas. There are estimates out that it's maybe $300 million in your state. So why not keep these people, the vast majority of whom have work permits, they either work or do go to school, why not keep them in this country to help with the economic market? Is it so important to you?
I think many people look at the overall GDP number. They just say, okay, here's the total GDP, and here's how much it would go up with these more people in the country. That is too superficial. You have to look at GDP per capita. So you can bring in 2 million, 3 million, 5 million illegal aliens tomorrow, and it will increase our GDP because you have...
That is a lie, okay? He just tried to blow smoke up her ass. If you bring in 4 or 5 million people into this country tomorrow, that will not increase GDP unless they are working, okay? Gross domestic product is a product of work and wages, not of the number of population within the country. So he just lied to, I don't know what her last name is, but I just call her Holly, but he just lied to her, okay? And I guess either she didn't pick it up or she didn't have enough time to come back at it. Now, if you're talking about which he's going to bring in per capita income, now that's a whole different story, okay? That, in effect, is taking the gross domestic product and then dividing it by the number of people within the country. So if you increase the number of people within the country, gross domestic product will be reduced, okay, per capita, okay? It's a product of total dollars versus total population.
But more bodies in the United States. But per capita, per person, GDP will go down. Wealth will go down in America. So when you look at it per person, it doesn't help our individual situation. And you're talking about young Americans who won't have those jobs and will see wages depressed because the labor force in those markets grows and that drops down wages. Wages have been stagnant in America for almost 30 years.
All right, and again, he's mixing apples and oranges. What he's throwing in there is the total, they call it illegal resident population versus the 800,000 people that are within DACA. I can't say completely different subjects, but two different, or one is a subset of the other. The DACA people, okay, just so that you know, are basically either in school, they are employed, or they're in the military. 95% of all DACA recipients, okay, are in one of those three categories, okay? Now, number two, which you may or may not be aware of, in order to be a DACA recipient, you have to pay $500 every 2 years, okay? $500 every 2 years. So that's basically netting you about $4 billion over a 2-year period. That is cash in the bank. Now, if we also add in the fact that they pay Social Security payroll taxes, of which they are not eligible to receive any government benefits from Social Security. So that is also a big plus. So this guy, again, he's over here spitting bullshit.
Secretary, let me ask you this then. 780,000 people roughly are here, young people under DACA right now, under this program. If this program ends, it is receiving, what are these people supposed to do? Should they self-deport? Should ICE go after them and round them up?
What I would suggest they do is that they go back to their home country, get in line with the hundreds of thousands of people from their home country who are trying to do it legally. We forget.
You asshole, this is their home country. Just because you were born someplace does not necessarily make that your home country. If you've lived, I'll give you an example. My home state, you can call it, where I was born was New York. Okay, but I lived in California longer than I lived in New York, so I could be called a person of Californian, I guess, whatever you want to call it. Now, being located in Texas for the past 7+ years, I basically consider myself a Texan. It's not where you started. It's where you consider your home to be. And all of these people, since they were brought here at young ages, America is where they, or what they consider their home to be. So you turn around and want to take a bunch of people, primarily Hispanic, let's just get that out of the way, They don't know a damn thing about Mexico or El Salvador or any other Latin American country, if that's where they came from. And you, I guess, would have to stick them on a plane, fly them over there, and drop them off. You're basically condemning those people pretty much damn near to death. So what this guy is saying is total bullshit. And again, I don't have a dog in the fight, but I do know right from wrong. And what this guy is proposing is absolutely wrong. Reagan didn't do it. He gave amnesty to a bunch of people. And Bush did the same thing. But now all of a sudden, because of his, in my opinion, racist attitudes, this guy's got to be a white supremacist. You know, he is targeting a group of people who absolutely have no ability to be able to fight back. And if you saw, which you probably didn't, but today, the used car salesman's daughter, Sarah Huckabee, whatever the hell her last name is, she had a press conference today, and in her remarks, she's always throws in there that it's the DACA people are disproportionately affecting the employment of African Americans and Hispanic people that are here illegally or U.S. citizens. That is so much bullshit. That is so much bullshit that I absolutely cannot believe it. But they want to try to point the finger at us as the reason why they're pushing this, and that is absolutely wrong.
Forget about the people who are, trying to follow our laws.
These dreamers are here legally.
They try to follow our laws too. No,
these dreamers are here legally now. One of them, let me ask you
this temporary status.
Let me personalize a little bit, because there's some. You mentioned 800,000 dreamers roughly in this country. One of them is Angel Romero. He was brought here illegally when he was 2 years old, and I want you to listen to what he has to say here.
I basically got the message that my country doesn't want me here. It's trying to get rid of me, and it was very confusing.
If you could talk to somebody like him, or to somebody like Jesus Contreras, who is a paramedic working in Houston, who is here under the DACA program, he's a dreamer. What is your message individually to him?
A couple of things. One is that he's gotten a great gift from the American taxpayer. He's gotten the best free public education in the Western Hemisphere. And, he should be grateful because we, the taxpayers, have paid for that. And we're saying, look, if you want to be part of the American country, then do it legally. Go to the home country. Take your parents who brought you in illegally to go with you.
They're also paying taxes when they're here as dreamers. So they're not relying on the American taxpayer. They're relying on themselves as well, right?
Well, no, that's not correct. The vast majority do not pay enough in taxes to compensate for the benefits that they are receiving from the government. So they're net.
That is a total crock of bullshit. They're paying more taxes than regular citizens as a percentage is concerned, because they're paying Social Security taxes and they get no benefits from them. They cannot draw any type of Social Security benefit or federal government benefit. So what he just said is a total crock of bullshit.
Takers from the system. So yeah, paying some tax. We all pay some taxes when we buy a pack of gum at the store. But that doesn't mean that we're paying our
that's not correct. That's not sort of what we're talking about here. And in addition to the idea that they pay taxes, they also give a lot of information to the government when they came forward to get on the program, as you're aware. They trusted the government. They provided a lot of personal information. There's concern now about that. What do you think the government is going to do or should do with all of that information that these dreamers have provided?
Well, what the Department of Homeland Security has said is that in any allocation of our resources for deporting people, we're always going to go against those who are committing crimes and those who present, our gang members first. So if you've committed a crime, which many DACA recipients have, over 1,500. Right. So if you've committed a crime or you are a gang member, you better be watching out because you are a high priority for removal.
But if you
okay, see how he threw that in there? If you've committed a crime, you better watch out. He's trying to link being a DACA recipient with being a criminal, which is absolutely not true. One of the requirements for being a DACA recipient is that you cannot have been convicted of a felony and certain misdemeanors. So if you're speeding, you get a traffic ticket, that doesn't count. But if they catch you with an ounce of weed or something like that, that in itself would be sufficient in order for you to lose your DACA status. So, again, DACA people, for the most part, are the most law-abiding citizens.
You can't be a DACA recipient. And let's talk about those numbers for a second, because you were on this network last week talking about. No, you can't. Not if you've committed a crime. You lose your status.
Okay. No, there are several. Certain high-level crimes cause you to lose your status. Lower-level crimes do not cause you to lose your status. And if you've been arrested but not convicted, you can get DACA. And so
Eddie's absolutely right, because just because you're arrested doesn't mean that you have committed a crime. Yeah, I've been arrested 3 times and exonerated all 3 times. Based on what this guy is saying, if I were a DACA person, recipient, I shouldn't be eligible for the benefit. So I guess he doesn't believe on innocent until proven guilty, and he's going to further go into that and substantiate what I just said, as you will hear right now.
So a lot of people are, gang members are arrested.
Last week, which is if you've been arrested but not convicted, you haven't committed a crime because you are innocent until proven guilty. But let me talk about the numbers. You mentioned 1,500 people have lost their DACA status, essentially, which is correct. According to the U.S. government,
it's not because they went to trial and were found innocent. It's because they never were prosecuted, because we don't have...
Yeah, it's because they were never prosecuted because they were innocent. You are innocent until you go to trial and are found guilty. All right, so as far as he's concerned, just the arrest is enough for you to be considered a criminal. This guy is a fucking asshole.
Counties don't have the resources to prosecute.
What figures do you have to back that up?
I have a testimony from ICE agents. In the federal district court about assault by DACA gang members, and they were still given the benefits of the program.
Okay, again, there is no such thing as a DACA gang member. The gang membership in itself would negate the person's ability to be a DACA recipient. So he's basically just spinning bullshit again.
Because they were
Let me stop you for 1 second, Secretary, because I think this is an important conversation to have and to look at the facts when we have this conversation. 1,500 DACA recipients have lost their status under this program out of 780, or let's say 800,000 total recipients of DACA, total dreamers. That is 0.2%. We're talking about less than half of 1% of people who have lost their DACA status because of crime. You have anecdotes that you talk about of people who have committed crimes. You say there are other anecdotes from dreamers like the person that we just showed you, like the young paramedic in Houston as well. So when you talk about the facts, the vast majority of these dreamers are in this country contributing to the economy, which is important to you. So I ask, how is this consistent then, ending DACA with the president's promise to take care of dreamers, that these dreamers should rest easy? How does that square?
Well, I'm not sure what the president meant when he said rest easy, and who knows, but the point is...
I'm not sure what the president said when he said they could rest easy. I'm pretty sure the term rest easy means you have nothing to worry about in most people's definitions. But I guess in his particular case, he's confused enough that he doesn't understand what rest easy means.
Let's agree on this. Let's agree on this. The dreamers represent a cross-section of the illegal alien population. So you do have some criminals. You also have some people who are doing very well and are scholars, what have you.
No, they don't represent a good cross-section. Okay? They represent an upper cross-section of the American population, because their incident of criminality is significantly lower than the average population in the United States. So they just love throwing criminal and thug and gang member in there because they're all basically buzzwords that are designed to raise the hair up on the necks of people. But you really have to pay attention and know the facts to know that that's all this guy is doing, is sprouting rhetoric. He's got no facts to back up anything that he's saying, and he's just pushing a white supremacist ideology.
Those individuals had come into the country illegally, and at this this point, the question is, okay, you no longer have that illegal, that status that President Obama gave you and he had no authority to give you, so you're back into your illegal status. I would suggest go home and get in line, come into the United States legally, then get a green card, then become a citizen. Do it the right way, like so many hundreds of thousands of your countrymen are trying to do. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with following the law?
What's wrong with that is this is their country, okay? And you are a big enough asshole that you don't want to recognize that. Okay, the law is one thing, okay? Morality is something else, and racism is deep down in there on the opposite side of morality. That's where this particular turd resides. And I gotta tell you, thank God that I never go to Washington. My sister used to live near there, but she subsequently moved. So I have no chance of ever running into this guy, because by the time I got through giving him a piece of my mind, he might be dumb enough to try to take it a little further, and he would be in for a very, very rude awakening, though I know I would absolutely be arrested. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, etc., etc., share.